Tupac Shakur didn't actually die in '96 and is still alive.
So you seriously think that he might still be alive?
I'm gonna say this, Pac, you never know.
Tupac not
ain't as smart as you should be.
Tupac not dead, n***. He was dead. They'd be arresting those dudes for murder. You know he was somewhere smoking a Cuban cigar on the island somewhere, you know what I mean?
Because I believe Tupac didn't die.
Really? You think Tupac's still alive?
Rappers have been saying something that sounds impossible. What if Tupac Shakur didn't just die? Strange details around the 1996 shooting, the 6 mysterious hospital days, and the sudden cremation have kept the rumors alive for decades. Now the question refuses to go away. Was Tupac's death the biggest illusion hip-hop has ever seen?
This newly released evidence showing never-before-seen details in a case that's cracked wide open some 27 years later.
The story of Tupac Shakur was supposed to end in September 1996. The world was told the legendary rapper died after a brutal shooting in Las Vegas, but almost immediately strange whispers started spreading. Fans claimed they saw someone who looked exactly like Tupac days after the funeral, sitting quietly in a passenger seat of a passing car, head low, face half hidden, as if the world had just buried a man who was somehow still moving through the shadows.
Yeah, I think he put out in his music that he wanted people to believe this, that he was still alive. So I don't know if "let him rest" is the right term. I think Tupac's liking this from wherever he's at. Yeah.
Those rumors grew darker with time. People began pointing to one chilling detail. The timeline never made sense. Tupac wasn't declared dead the night he was shot. He officially died 6 days later on September 13th, 1996. That unexplained window of time became the fuel for one of hip-hop's most haunting mysteries.
Going straight to the point. After the shooting, what's next?
The shooting itself happened after a boxing match featuring Mike Tyson in Las Vegas. Earlier that night, Tupac and Suge Knight were seen inside the MGM Grand where Tupac got into a fight with Orlando Anderson. Hours later, while driving through the city in a black BMW, a white Cadillac pulled beside them and opened fire. Bullets ripped through the car, leaving Tupac critically wounded and starting a mystery that still refuses to die.
Well, a shocking surprise for one Henderson resident when he found out a house near his home was being searched Monday night in the nearly 30-year-old murder case of rapper Tupac Shakur.
Do you believe he's alive and in Malaysia?
You just have to tune into the show for my answer.
Oh, come on, Jay,
I'm telling you, you just have to tune into the show for my answer. Like, I don't want to ruin it.
Emergency responders rushed Tupac to the hospital as doctors fought to save him. The injuries were severe and he required immediate surgery. Suge Knight was treated for minor injuries and released fairly quickly. But Tupac remained inside the hospital as the entire music world waited for updates.
This movie is about Tupac actually escaping from University Medical Center here in Vegas and relocating to New Mexico, getting protection from the Navajo tribe.
Then the timeline becomes strange. Reports said Tupac was placed into a medically induced coma to stabilize his condition. Fans were told he was unconscious while doctors tried to control internal bleeding. The situation sounded desperate and hopeless.
One thing you gotta realize, the whole world know I hate rats, I hate snitches. I ain't into telling. So people always want to know, is Pac dead, is Pac alive? I'm the wrong motherfucker to ask.
But years later, Suge Knight started saying something that changed everything. According to him, Tupac was not silent or unconscious the entire time. Suge claimed that Tupac was awake at different moments and even speaking with him in the hospital. In fact, Suge once said the two were laughing and joking together.
But I tell you this, if you try to find a person who cremated Tupac, after he supposed cremated Tupac, he retired and vanished into the sun, into the sunset, into the darkness.
That single claim created a massive contradiction in the story. If Tupac was supposedly in a coma, how was he laughing and talking with Suge Knight? Suge repeated that Tupac was conscious on the way to the hospital and aware even after surgery. Those words have haunted the case for decades.
You are going to be placed under arrest.
Me?
Mm-hmm. You're Allie, right?
Yeah.
I'm on the Pingree Park Road, and I have a dead body.
They did find a body. What?
It was one clean cut very deeply into his neck, from left to right.
For some people, that statement completely changes the meaning of those 6 missing days. Instead of a dying rapper struggling to survive, it raises a darker possibility. Maybe those days were not about recovery at all. Maybe something else was being planned behind closed doors.
The man charged in Tupac Shakur's murder is speaking out from behind bars for the first time. Dwayne Keefe D. Davis insists he was 300 miles away when the rapper was shot. Now he's pointing the finger at someone else.
I'm innocent. I ain't killed nobody, never did ever kill nobody. They don't have no evidence against me. Came and put me in Las Vegas.
As the years passed, rappers started making comments that kept the mystery alive. One of the strangest moments happened during an interview with Treach. The interview had already ended and the camera was supposed to be off, but it kept recording while the crew packed up their equipment.
Keep walking back, take a step to your left, step to your left.
And I actually went to his home today to find out more about his neighborhood and what it feels like to be so close to the home that may be connected to Shakur's death.
Someone casually asked Treach about Tupac. Without thinking too much, he answered quietly that the last time he saw Tupac was in Cuba. The comment sounded casual, almost careless, but the camera had captured every word. When that clip surfaced later, it shocked fans across the hip-hop world.
If you knew who killed Tupac, would you tell the police?
Absolutely not. I don't get paid to solve homicides.
Cuba quickly became one of the biggest theories about Tupac's fate. The connection was not random either. Tupac's aunt, Assata Shakur, had been living in Cuba for years after escaping the United States. Some fans believe Tupac could have used that connection to disappear somewhere safe. Over time, the idea started spreading through rap culture itself. Artists began mentioning the rumor in lyrics and interviews. Kendrick Lamar once referenced the idea of faking death and escaping to Cuba in one of his songs. Even Eminem joked in a freestyle that hip-hop had never been the same since Tupac moved to Cuba.
My closest friends, my homies, I done took care of everything for them, looked out for them, put them in the game, everything turned on me. Fear is stronger than love. Remember that.
None of these statements proves that Tupac actually survived, but they show something important. Decades later, many rappers still speak about the possibility like it never fully disappeared. The official story says Tupac died in a hospital bed in 1996.
Shakur was gunned down here in Las Vegas back in 1996. No one was ever charged, but now a televised confession may be the missing link.
Yet inside hip-hop culture, another story keeps circulating quietly in the background. A story where the shooting was real, but the ending might not be what the world was told. And the longer the mystery survives, the more people start wondering if the biggest death in hip-hop history was actually the greatest escape.
Nearly 13 hours of body-worn camera video obtained first by ABC News.
I didn't really look up to Tupac. I wasn't his fan, right? I wasn't his friend. He was just an ordinary person to me.
The Cuba theory is where the story starts getting even stranger. People noticed that Tupac Shakur had a direct connection to someone already living safely outside the United States. His aunt, Assata Shakur, had been living in Cuba since the mid-1990s after escaping the U.S. legal system. For conspiracy believers, that connection suddenly looked less like a coincidence and more like the perfect escape route. Cuba is not just another random country on the map. For decades, it has been a place where people could disappear from American authorities and live quietly without much interference. If someone famous wanted to vanish overnight, it would actually be one of the few places where that could realistically happen. That is exactly why fans started asking a brutal question. What if Tupac did not die at all and simply left the country during those 6 mysterious days?
This newly released evidence showing never-before-seen details in a case that's cracked wide open some 27 years later.
Then rumors started spreading that people had actually seen him there. Stories popped up online about Tupac being spotted walking through neighborhoods in Havana years after 1996. Some claimed he was living quietly under protection and avoiding attention. Others said locals recognized him but stayed silent because they knew who he was.
It kind of protects the high classification person that's placed in this unit, and it protects the person from having any interaction.
Things got even more bizarre when an old video started circulating on the internet. The clip supposedly showed a man who looked exactly like Tupac standing in a parking lot in Cuba talking to a small crowd. The video quality was rough, but the resemblance was enough to make people pause. Fans slowed the footage down frame by frame, arguing online about whether the man in the video was really Tupac or just someone who happened to look like him.
Yeah, and according to AP's reporting,
this is a person who was somehow involved, and, according to his memoir, he was there at the time of the shooting. And
at another point, a photo appeared online claiming to show Tupac partying in Cuba with celebrities. The image quickly went viral and people debated it for weeks. Some said the lighting and faces looked edited, while others insisted the photo felt too real to be fake. The truth was never confirmed, but the damage was already done because the rumor had taken on a life of its own.
The way that a camera was placed into the facility was by a correctional officer bringing it in, which was very, very not a part of their job description.
So this is the biggest development in the Tupac murder case since this all happened, since the murder happened. They never served a search warrant and, showed up at someone's house with the SWAT team back in 1996. So this is definitely, it can't be overstated how big of a deal this is.
Hip-hop artists only made things more interesting. Instead of shutting down the rumors, some of them casually fed the fire. Kendrick Lamar once delivered a line that fans still talk about today. In one of his tracks, he referenced faking death and escaping to Cuba as the only logical move. Then Eminem added fuel in his own way during a freestyle. He joked that hip-hop had never really been the same since Tupac moved to Cuba. Some listeners treated it like a funny line meant to entertain the crowd. Others heard something deeper hidden inside the joke.
Sources telling AP News Dwayne Keefe D. Davis was arrested early this morning, though the exact charge or charges he faces isn't known right now. His arrest happening just 2 months after Las Vegas police raided Davis's wife's home in Henderson, Nevada.
That is how hip-hop culture works sometimes. Rappers love leaving clues, references, and playful hints inside lyrics. Fans spend years trying to decode those lines like puzzles. When two of the biggest rappers in the world casually mention the same theory, people start wondering if those words were more than just entertainment.
You can hear the officers calling out the man living inside Dwayne Keith Davis, known as Keefy D, who has claimed he is one of only 2 surviving eyewitnesses to the murder of Tupac Shakur.
The legend only got wilder in 2018 when Suge Knight Jr. suddenly dropped a bomb on social media. Out of nowhere, he began posting messages claiming Tupac was still alive. According to him, the rapper was not hiding in Cuba at all. He was living in Malaysia.
And a retired LAPD detective says that Diddy is the one who ordered the hit on Tupac in Vegas. In 2006, the investigation into Biggie's death was reopened because the city wanted more evidence to defend themselves against a lawsuit.
The post instantly exploded across the internet. Millions of people began sharing screenshots and debating what they meant. Suge Knight Jr. even shared what looked like threatening text messages from someone warning him that he had revealed too much information. One message reportedly told him he had crossed a line and it was time to go.
You know what I'm saying? We should stop all this bullshit with each other, black on black crimes. It's bullshit. You need to wake up our whole community.
Then he pushed the story even further. He posted images that supposedly showed Tupac standing next to modern celebrities like 50 Cent and Beyonce. Most people quickly called the photos fake, pointing out editing mistakes. But for believers in the theory, those posts were proof that someone close to the situation knew more than they were allowed to say. While the internet argued about Malaysia, another detail quietly kept bothering people who studied the official records. According to the coroner's report, Tupac's body weight was listed at about 215 pounds. That number confused fans immediately. Tupac was known for his slim build and usually weighed somewhere around 160 pounds.
Me having contact with him, illegal. I was never supposed to have any contact with Tupac. Remember, the judge had actually says, no one can have interaction with this celebrity because he's mandated to be highly classified.
In a search warrant also obtained by ABC News, police reported they seized magazine articles, computers, hard drives, and photos from the 1990s that apparently show individuals who could have been connected to Shakur's death.
That difference is not small. It is a gap of more than 50 pounds, which raised serious questions for conspiracy theorists. Some people believe it was simply a paperwork mistake made during a chaotic investigation. Others think it hints at something darker, like the possibility that the body in the report was not Tupac at all.
I thought I heard like a female voice. I thought I heard something behind me, yeah. Dude, that was a voice, clear as day. That was a male voice. It just feels like something is on the stairs watching me.
Another bizarre detail came from something Suge Knight said during an interview years later. He claimed that the person responsible for handling Tupac's body received around $3 million in cash. According to Suge, after that payment was made, the person disappeared completely and never contacted him again.
Breaking news, an arrest has been made in connection with the Tupac Shakur
murder. Las Vegas police have arrested a man on suspicion of murder in that 1996 drive-by shooting of the famous rapper.
There were no public explanations about the money and no clear investigation into where it went. The story sounded so strange that many people struggled to believe it, but the idea stuck with fans because it created another haunting possibility. What if that payment was part of something bigger that the public never saw? Even famous witnesses added strange pieces to the puzzle. Boxing champion Floyd Mayweather Jr. later said he was living near the area where the shooting happened that night. He claimed he saw events unfolding around the scene but stayed quiet about it for years.
Keefe D confessed that his nephew, Orlando Anderson, fired those fatal shots. Police say Anderson was the main suspect in the murder but never faced charges. Anderson since died.
So that's what I tell the story of how Tupac and I really got these pictures and photos put into this facility. I was amazed.
When he finally spoke about it, the statement revived interest in the case all over again. People started wondering how many others might have seen something but chose not to speak. In a city like Las Vegas, a shooting on a busy street rarely goes completely unnoticed.
Police searched a home in the city of Henderson. That's about 15 miles southeast of the Vegas Strip. Shakur was at a red light just a block from the Strip when he was shot multiple times.
That he was in the Cadillac, the white vehicle that pulled up beside Suge Knight and Tupac on that Las Vegas Strip, but it's not clear yet who is the actual shooter, but we know that he was in the car according to his own words.
And yet the investigation itself never fully delivered answers. The murder case surrounding Tupac remained unsolved for decades. Witnesses refused to cooperate, stories changed, and pieces of evidence never lined up the way investigators expected. That is why the mystery refuses to disappear. Some believe Tupac was tragically murdered during the most violent era in hip-hop history. Others believe something far more unbelievable happened behind the scenes. Because if Tupac truly planned an escape from the deadly East Coast and West Coast rap war, it would not just be a conspiracy. It would be the boldest disappearance the music industry has ever seen. And nearly 30 years later, the question still hangs in the air with no clear answer. Was Tupac Shakur taken from the world that night, or did he quietly walk away from it forever?